At this stage, we will go ahead and move on to the Productivity Suite and introduce this powerful new free tool available to everybody starting next month. And we have lots of tools that will help you take your productivity to the next level. It's a collection of tools designed to assist individuals with better collaboration and help you stay on top of your actions. Best of all, it's completely integrated and readily available. So these are the sections that we'll be covering: the communicator, the biz chat, tasks and to-dos, general notes, issue resolutions, filing cabinet, time log, visitor log, notifications, and ISO filing cabinet. All right, inside the MX interface, on the left side, you have the standard MX applications, which we will cover in future demos. And on the right side, we have the Productivity Suite tools. The first, as I mentioned, is under the communicator, and it allows for immediate connections and chats. As you know, you're really busy, you're pulled in a lot of directions, and you probably have lots of tools to stay on top of your work. You probably have Outlook for doing your emails, and you probably even have hundreds of emails a day. Maybe some sticky notes on your desk to remind you of things you need to accomplish, scratch paper to remember things for later. And with this new group communicator, you can have a central place to manage your tasks, actions, and better collaborate with your coworkers and customers. Now with the chat, a lot of people rely on emails to collaborate, but you have to wait for somebody to reply. And yes, we might get impatient with that, but at the speed of business, sometimes you need an answer now. And with the business chat or biz chat, you're able to immediately collaborate with your team members, get the answers you need, and move on to the next actions that you have to do. And you have that full history. So you'll be able to see who the users are and any chat logs that you have with them. Next to the biz chat are the tasks and to-dos. And with the tasks and to-dos, you can set up collection of items that you have to complete. So for example, I created one for the MX introduction. And as you complete the items, you can check them off and have visibility of those that you've done, and then the items that remain to be completed. And each of these task lists you can set up with due dates and reminders and participants so that you can collaborate on these action items with multiple people. And you can attach notes and attachments and pictures and such, and you have that full history, that log of notes against those tasks until they're all fully completed, in which time they will move over into the archive. Additionally, you can track notes, and these are just like the tasks. The comments for the tasks will have user and time and date stamps for each comment, along with the full details of the notes. And if you have done any images, those will be readily available, or file attachments, and the user can click on it to see those images or those attachments. And again, you can have due dates and reminders and multiple participants, and make sure you stay on top of and have all the notes related to an item. And that is the communicator piece. Now, no matter how powerful your system is, no matter how smooth you think the operations are, you're going to have issues. And you're going to have to deal with those issues. You're going to have to try and identify, or you're going to want to identify the possible causes of those issues, and monitor or create ways to possibly solve those problems, monitor the progress in that, make sure that somebody's following up on that it was successfully implemented and it did or achieved the desired results. And there's different ways that people accomplish this now: external systems, the old corrective action module, pen and paper, or through email chains or whatever. But to allow you to put it all into one place, have the full log, accountability, and traceability, we have created the new, we call it MERS for short, but it stands for Multi-Purpose Issue and Resolution System. And it's a central collaboration tool that everybody can come in and record issues, and these can be related to anything. Any issues you're dealing with, whether it's production related, purchasing related, sales and accounting systems related, whatever, it's a central place to keep track of any issues that you want to monitor. And within that, if you open up one of the records, you can see the category for the record, what type of issue that you're resolving, when you want to have it done, who's currently holding the ball right now. So as it moves from person to person, as they're signing off on it, as they're reviewing it, you can pass the ball to the next person, and you know who's currently responsible for it. All the participants that are involved with it, a brief description, several action items that you need to complete as part of this issue resolution, as well as a full log of all of the notes and files and attachments and things that are related to the issue that you're resolving. And then, as you can see, it keeps track of who started it, when it was closed, the follow-up dates, and when it was completed totally. And then allowing you to go back in and reference those that are late, those that need reminders and follow-ups and such. You can stay on top of those issues from initial identification all the way through the resolution process until you know that the new processes are in place and you won't be repeating that problem, so you can satisfy the whole corrective action requests. All right, the next on the list is the filing cabinet. File storage and retention and sharing are critical for your business. You need to have the right file in the right place at the right time, and it can make all the difference if you do. With Mannix, you've always been able to store files, a lot of different related files, and pretty much any file type, but it's connected to specific records, and it was kind of a manual process to do that. In the new filing cabinet, it's integrated and fairly automated. So as you're doing the transactions, like you're doing a receiving transaction and you scan the packing slip, not only is it attached to the receiver, but it's automatically filed in the filing cabinet. And as you, so if I, like, for example, I'll go under the supply chain management, let's just show you what that would look like. And under receiving and purchase order 1505, and I didn't come in and create these folders, and the packing slip folder, all of this is automatically created as I completed the receiving transaction, and then it has all of the files, whether that's pictures or PDFs, that I can simply click into and view the actual file or the image. So those documents are readily available whenever, and this filing is done automatically. So in this case, like I said, it's for parts that are being received, but it can also be for products that I ship out the door. And you need a central place to store all of your production related files, like your work instructions and process flow instructions, and have it automatically distributed and updated. Filing cabinet is a place to do that. Now, in addition to storing the files and making them readily available, it's important to be able to control access to those files. So if I come back into this PDF, by default, I have the standard security permissions, but I have the ability to come in and change those permissions for each file. I can make it internal, which means if I've given outside, like customers or suppliers, access to my system, they can't access this file because it's designated as an internal file. Or I can set it up with specific restrictions, restrict it to a specific customer or a specific supplier, even set up the permission groups to say anybody with this group can access this file, so that you know the appropriate people have access to view it, and again, a separate group of people have access to edit it. And then when you know that that file is under control but also readily available. Now, another part of that, you're collaborating with your customers, and they need to give you a file for a new bill of material, or there's an engineering or ECO or some other document that they have to provide. The old method is they're going to send you an email. You got to figure out where to store it on the server. You're going to track it there. With MX, they're opening it up, if you choose to allow it, so that your customers or suppliers or sales reps or whoever outside of your company can upload files directly to your system into the filing cabinet. Now it's in there and it's controlled. You can access it, connect it to the records that are needed. And then on the other side, you've created a document like an invoice or a packing slip or whatever, and maybe you've emailed it to them. But maybe there's a CFC that you're also storing on your servers and you want to make it available to them. You can do that through the filing cabinet, or you will be able to do that through the filing cabinet so that they can log in and access those files. But even after you've shared the files, because of those security permissions, you would have the ability to change those access permissions to restrict or to revoke that access even after you've already granted it. So it really opens the door for much better collaboration between customers, suppliers, and sales reps internally and externally. Central place, store all the files that you need. For time tracking, we've made it easier than ever to track your users and workers' time on the clock and time on a job. And when you set up the users with access to the system, you give them a username and password and they can clock in with that. Or you can set up a badge code that would allow them to simply scan their badge, punch in and out for the day, even request time off to help facilitate on the HR side with the scheduling of your workers. When they're clocking in and out of jobs, again, username and password to punch into a job or scan their badge code, scan or enter the work order number. Their default work center is plugged in, but they can do a different one. And so you track the actual time on the jobs by work order and by work center, so you can do your reporting on the performance at the end. Now, an ever-growing number of Mannix users are also ITAR registered. So we've added a visitor log that allows you to track people that come into outside people that come into your company and monitor, if they're on site or not. You can take a picture of them, track whether they're U.S. citizens. So they enter the information, company name, create a badge for them. Somebody's their escort. You can see who's currently in the facility and if they're a non-U.S. citizen or not. And then when they leave, you check them out, and now you've had the full details and have tracked them throughout. This also opens the door for things like tighter integration of ITAR controls, as I mentioned before, with the compliance tracking. For things like you have a bill of material that's ITAR controlled, and now there's a non-U.S. citizen in the facility, so don't leave the bill of material open. Things like that. Now, that's in addition to the ITAR controls for employees as well, which we'll discuss when we get into those sections. But this visitor log allows you to keep track of whether or not you have non-U.S. citizens at your facility. Next over, notifications. Life happens. The system, coming back to the management by exception, the system is completing the tasks that you've assigned and automating as much as it can, but there'll be times when events will happen, whether the specific part you're waiting for is received or the ECO needs to be approved or whatever. And as those events occur, it raises this alert, the system alert, so that you as a user can come in and see, oh, you've got, in this case, 59 alerts, and you can either clear the notes if you don't need the information or even drill down into it. In this case, it was a specific note that was added. So I can drill down into it and see the details of that note to make sure I have the information that I need. This helps you to focus more on the things that add value rather than on completing action items, because the system will tell you when you need to pay attention. Next over is the ISO documentation. I don't have the user interface to show, but it will act a lot like the user manual. And the user manual is controlled by Mannix, but it goes through each section and has a drill down of the different sections. And when you get to the appropriate section that you're interested in, you'll have the documentation on the right side as long as it's been set up. Now, the difference, the key difference between the ISO documentation and the system manuals is you control the tree and the files that are presented in that tree. So just like in the notes I showed you, like in the filing cabinet, you can attach PDF files. in the ISO documentation, you're attaching PDF files. And so you'll set up your tree and you'll attach those PDFs, and then your users can drill down to the appropriate sections, view the PDF files according to their permissions, modify those PDF files, or change them out or whatever. But if not, at least drill down to see that, so that you can have your control documents, but also make them readily available. And it opens the door for us connecting those to different sections in the system, so that the appropriate instructions for purchasing is right there. So your SOP for receiving and kitting is right there. So they always have what they need, and if you update the documents, they're made aware of that. And similar to the ISOP is the user guide and tutorials and contacting support. You can do that all through the productivity suite. Going over next to the next section is the user login. This is where your users will log in and out. And if you have multiple locations, it allows them to switch to different locations. There are ways to see information in the other, like if you have two locations and they have inventory the other location, you can check the inventory without switching into their system. But again, we'll cover that when we get into the full system later. But the user does have the ability to switch systems if they need to. And you have access to a calendar to pick dates and see some, like if you're setting your reminders and to-dos, you can see those dates in the future and make sure you pick the appropriate one. And that is an introduction to the Productivity Suite. As I said before, it is a completely free tool. You don't have to use Mannix or MX to use the Productivity Suite. It's available for everybody, and opens the door, and it's our way of giving back to the EMS community, and hopefully providing tools that will help users make their processes more efficient, help them be more successful, and grow their business to the next level. And with that, that will end this session. I appreciate everybody's attendance and look forward to the next one. Have a fantastic day.